Let's kick things off here at the convention with two members of Pierre Poilievre's caucus. Joining me now is Rempel Garner, the MP for Calgary and Nose Hill, and the Conservative critic for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, and Adam Chambers. He is the MP for Simcoe, Northern Ontario, and the Conservative critic for International Trade. It's good to see you both.
It's awesome. Thanks for being in Calgary. It's warm here.
It's good. It is a heck of a lot warmer. That Chinook weather is lovely. Well, Rempel Garner, let's start with you because well, you have the home field advantage as a Calgary MP. What do you expect to hear from your leader tonight? What do you think the people who are not already committed Conservatives need to hear from Pierre Poilievre?
Well, I think he's going to talk a lot about his love for Canada, some of the principles and policies that we're putting forward to make life more affordable for Canadians. And, I think re-emphasize all of the points that has broadened our voter coalition over the last year, and I think that will continue to grow going forward. It's what you're hearing on the floor here, it's what you're hearing from delegates, and there's a lot of energy in the room.
How do you think he has to address, Michelle, the issue of Alberta separation as it's bubbled up this week, right? Because it sideswiped the First Ministers a little bit. What do you think we're going to hear from your leader?
Well, it's not a surprise to any Alberta MP. I mean, the reason why I run as a Conservative, one of the many, is because you haven't seen this type of unity crisis under a Conservative government. I was a Stephen Harper cabinet minister, and we always thought about how to bring regions together. The question you asked for me is really one for Mark Carney. The reason why you're hearing this type of sentiment is because there are a lot of people in Alberta who feel that over the last decade, the federal Liberal government has pitted Alberta against the rest of the country to the detriment of our national unity. So I think it's something that the Liberal government, Prime Minister Carney, has to take seriously. And for me, my job as an Alberta MP is to raise some of the concerns that are coming forward. If we're going to have a positive, united Canada that's sovereign, a strong Alberta means a strong Canada, and that's something that they have to talk about.
So, Adam Chambers, I've only been in Calgary for a few hours, but the Conservatives we spoke with coming in here and around and leading up to this, they expect a pretty good number in the vote for your leader tonight. We'll get to that in a second, but what do you think we're going to hear from him? Not for the delegates here, who are very happy with Pierre Poilievre, but to the rest of the country that are paying attention to your leader's next move.
Sure, like Michelle, I would expect a strong, love for Canada speech, but let's remember one of the things that brought Pierre to great heights and success was the fact that he was constantly focused on speaking about the issues that people care about. Leading up into the next election, the past election, Conservatives ran the table on housing, on crime, on affordability, on spending, and on taxes. And that's the reason why we had been doing very, very well, and because we were speaking about those issues. Those were the issues that Pierre brought forward. I expect him to continue to focus on those issues that people care about, because that's the path to a winning election in the next time it comes.
Look, there's no question of all the national leaders in Canada, he sees on that issue set first, foremost, and most profoundly, and for whatever reason, the Trudeau Liberals did not respond to it. But it's the Carney Liberals now, and they are not as slow to react to it, whether you agree with the policy, but they are speaking about it.
They are slow.
Well, they're acknowledging it, they're speaking to it.
Yeah, but that's
right?
not action. I mean, like a can of coffee is $33. Rent is high.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, they're not on it. They're not taking action. And what you're hearing tonight, and the reason why our movement is so strong, is that people expect action on these core issues. It is the promise of Canada. So, you're talking about what you're going to hear from Pierre. It's what we heard in the House of Commons this week, saying, look, it's the song, a little less talk, a little more action, right? And that's what we want to see out of the Liberals.
But where I was going with it, Adam Chambers, is that the issue set has evolved beyond that since the election of Donald Trump, right? And we saw that in the last election. I mean, how do we expect, what do you want to hear from your leader on that one? Because it's a tough one. The Prime Minister gets the benefit of success with Trump or intransigence from Trump because it benefits him because of his position. How do you deal with the foreign policy issues? How does he deal with that tonight?
Sure, there's no question. You have to talk about the president. But I would say, if that's the only thing that we talk about as a country, we will be doing ourselves a disservice we had issues to deal with as a country before the president won the election. We will have plenty of issues to deal with after the president is the president, that if we don't work on today, we will not have a strong, sovereign, united country. You've heard some of the concerns that Michelle has talked about, national unity. You know, if we don't get housing right, if we don't get crime right, if we don't get the taxation system right, our country's going to be, it's going to be difficult to raise a family, to live affordably. You see young people leaving the country. There's been a number of high-profile stories of entrepreneurs, young individuals who've built a business, and where do they go? They go south. I mean, we got to make sure we're creating a country here that people want to live and want to stay in. And I think, you know, if we just focus on the president, we can't ignore him, there's no question. But if we just focus on him, I think we'll do ourselves a disservice in the long run.
It's a yes and though thing, isn't it, Michelle Rempel, Garner, that you have to obviously focus on. The challenge of generational fairness is a profound one. I got 2 young boys, I want them to have the life I had or better, right? And it's something premiers, mayors, city councilors also have to get a bit more in the game on. But the foreign policy challenges the country is facing are pretty seismic, right? And the Conservatives need to offer a path on that too.
I look at it differently. I think the Liberals really want the ballot question, whenever the next election may come, to be the current American president. And that's because, you know, you talk about your kids. There are reasons why we're questioning if they're going to have the same path to prosperity that you do. Sure. And a lot of those reasons lie in a decade of failed Liberal policies, but also a lack of action that we've seen from Prime Minister Mark Carney over the last year. You know, he ran on a campaign to build at a speed we've never seen before in Canada. Well, where's the building? So, you know, for me, yes, you're right. Like, we have to talk about Canada's place in the world, but how are we building up Canada's military? Where's the action on trade? When are we putting a pipeline in the ground, or a shovel in the ground on a pipeline for energy security and energy sovereignty? So it's our job to make sure that those questions are being raised, that the government's being held to account, and that we're proposing, you know, common sense solutions to also address those issues and inspire Canadians as a government in waiting.
Right, well, I had R.J. Simpson, the Premier of Northwest Territories, on the show last night, and he was talking about these multi-billion-dollar procurement notices that have gone out on the Arctic security from the Department of National Defense. So even moving at a speed we haven't seen, those things are still not going to be lickety-split, right?
Well, they need to be.
Sure, but you know, moving fast could mean a small number of years as opposed to a decade.
No.
Right?
If Mark Carney's going to move at the speed that we've never seen before, then we need to move at the speed we've never seen before. This is about showing leadership, holding a cabinet to account, and actually moving, actually doing things, and just saying like, well, okay, it's still going to take many years. We don't have many years.
Right.
There has to be a sense of urgency that we're just not seeing out of that government. And again, like it's just not accepting the status quo.
We took the Prime Minister at his word. You know, after the election, he said he wanted to move fast. And which is one of the reasons why we ended up supporting his bill that said they would fast-track major projects. So, I mean, we've been here to help the government move fast. They have the tools to move fast, yet we haven't quite seen the results of that yet. So, sure. You know, I think that's the message we'd say. Look, we're here to help you move fast, but, you know, you're not actually doing it. I think it's our responsibility to mention, you know, where they're failing and how they can get things moving more quickly.
Well, look, at the Conservative Convention, where the Conservative leader is going to make a speech before they vote on his future, I would like to talk about the Conservatives.
All right.
So, like, let's talk a little bit about, like, so Mr. Poilievre unquestionably, I think, has the overwhelming support of his party. The challenges lie beyond the committed Conservatives, right? And you've seen this in the public opinion polling. Ben Wood-Finden, don't take my word for it, the communications director for Mr. Poilievre last time, wrote about this week, that there is a challenge there. There's a gap, and his negatives and his unfavorables are higher. So how do you overcome that, Michelle? Like, what does... People keep waiting for him to pivot. I don't think he will ever pivot, because this is who he is and this is what he believes. And I don't say that as a criticism. This is authentically Pierre Poilievre. Well, he doesn't want to be a phony.
I think there's a lot of people who, when they say the word pivot, they'd like Mr. Poilievre to pivot away from issues like affordability.
Or they want him to be someone different, right?
Well, but you know, I think when I listen to those voices and I hear the word pivot, it's typically somebody who has an extreme left-wing bias and would like to carry the water for the Liberal Party. I don't think that Pierre should make any apologies for standing up for the people that he ran under the leadership to support, which is it's all Canadians, a love for this country, but also people who have been left behind
Yes.
on bread and butter issues, on unsafe streets, on the issue of immigration. And you're sensing this sense of urgency in my voice because, like, I love this country. I love it so much. And we're facing so much pressure. And, sitting in the House of Commons and watching the inertia from the government, I think that one of Pierre's greatest strengths is being able to bust through that inertia, to speak to people who maybe don't have a rich lobby group, talking to bureaucrats in Ottawa, and that's why he has that support of people. So I think you're going to hear that similar sense of urgency from him, proposals to make life better for Canadians, and also a deep love for Canada.
But
There's no question he has a high conviction, but I think that's a positive, especially when he takes a few issues, like you mentioned before. If you focus the issue set on the things that people care about, I still believe that is the primary path to electoral success. It's through those things that people talk about at their dinner table, and he is very, very good at figuring out what those things are and then thinking about a policy prescription to deliver on them.
But how do you overcome the challenges in the data? And this is, again, something that Ben Woodfin wrote about this week, that on tone and whether he's the right type of Prime Minister for Canada, for the people who are not already committed Conservatives, there's a big gap there. That is a detriment for him. He pulls below the party in that way. And, Mark Carney leads there. What do you need to overcome that? Because that seems to be a big challenge between now and the next election, which will, in all likelihood, happen while Donald Trump is still in the White House.
Adam, the data we're seeing, too, is that Conservatives are neck and neck with the Liberals.
No, the party is, but I'm talking about the leadership numbers.
Well, but those two things are related, and the reason why they're related is that Pierre expanded our voter coalition on some of the issues that we're talking about. Like, look, I've been around for a hot minute. I know that you have to stay in touch with voters and respond in real time and be future focused, and that's something that, yes, absolutely, we're going to continue to do. But you talk about data, and a lot of time in these types of conversations, on these types of show, it's very ivory tower, it's very micro level stuff, and you can't discount the fact that there are people who want the issues that we're talking about to be put more into the forefront. And that's why the Liberals, great, they're stealing our policies, wonderful. But there's a reason why you talk about pivoting. Mark Carney pivots on the carbon tax, pivots on this, pivots on that, because I feel like our party and our leader does have their finger on that type of a pulse. And that's important. You can't be dismissed.
But how do you overcome that gap? I appreciate the issue set. It's a good issue set, and the turnout election strategy you ran on last time, very close to winning, if not for the disruption of the great disruptor, right? But there is this persistent leadership gap between the Prime Minister right now and the opposition leader. What do you do there?
I think, I still believe, you get there through the issue set. But let's remember, if you look at the people in this room here, this would not have been a convention you would have seen 10 or 15 years ago for our party. It's younger, it's more diverse. I think there's a large group of voters in that pool that are still yet to be tapped into. That's a big group of people who I think you can mobilize and continue to speak to and grow your support within, that I believe for the first time ever, the Conservative Party has been polling consistently ahead of the Liberals in that younger coalition. So I think, and frankly, if you can drive voter turnout up in those areas, that gap is able to be overcome, and there's no question.
Okay. Michelle Rempel Garner, Adam Chambers, good to see you.